financial performance and key things that supported that performance for 2021. Today I am together with David. David recently joined the company as the CFO. And I myself, my name is Marek Tymiński. I am one of the founders of the company and the CEO for the group. Just the overview in brief, we have 20 years of experience in developing and publishing globally video games in different genres, including first-person shooters, RPG, action games. Currently, we are having 3 major IPs that we are simultaneously developing projects next installments. We sold 16 million copies in our key major titles from Sniper Ghost Warrior franchise and Lords of the Fallen. Our business is run from 5 main locations, but obviously there are more locations and there are more key locations that we are operating and managing our business. Recently, David joined, is operating out of Ireland, as well as we have a new executive producer on one of our projects. He is operating out of Sweden. We have over 150 people working across our teams with the average of 14 years experience in the industry. Last year was a great year for us in terms of our financial performance, and it was the record year for the group. At the same time, we think it's a great foundation for future growth. Obviously, last year the performance was mostly due to release of Sniper Ghost Warrior, Contracts 2, the back catalog of the company, as well as the 2 releases from United Label. But as said previously, we currently developing 3 major projects simultaneously with different studios. We'll speak about that a bit later. So our pipeline is really looking very promising for the next years to come. The revenue for 2021 was 105.5 million Polish zloty, with a very strong EBITDA and net profit of 38 million Polish zloty. We ran the business as distributed development and marketing from different locations. This is very important to our current performance, what we have been able to achieve recently, but this is also very important for our future. That model we fully onboarded at the beginning of pandemic and decided to expand our teams and grow our studios where the talent is. And that allowed us to really gather great, very senior and very talented team across different studios, working mostly from Europe, but also we have people working from the outside of Europe as well. And the key factor here for the further growth is obviously working with that model moving forward and expanding our teams with further strong developers to then add important aspects and help growing our franchises into the future, making them more commercially successful over the next years. There is absolutely a significant quality improvement across the last years, and a great demonstration of that are those 3 games that we launched in 2021. All of them received very strong user score from the standpoint of people who bought those games, but also they received very strong Metacritic. So the average aggregated score from the critics globally on different platforms. And that is a great example of how well we were able to improve the quality and what people may expect, gamers, investors, business partners, from our partners in the future. And that is all together with the efficiency of how we develop our games. We used to be, in the past, a company that was looking very closely on developing at a low-cost business model, where we now, with everything what we achieved last year, we are the company that is focused on quality, focused on efficiency, and margins generated by the company are coming from that at first. So obviously costs are important to us, but we compete on the quality and the potential that each project has in the marketplace at first. And what's key for our strategy going forward is very much related to what we have been saying in the last quarters. Our business model is built on 4 pillars. Those 4 pillars are the 3 major IPs that we are developing and preparing releases in the next years. And the 4th pillar being United Label, that proved to be very successful, not yet big, but proved to be very successful 4 pillar for our growth. We are globally recognized developer and publisher of high quality video games, and that is very much related to what I said around our products that we brought and the products that we'll bring forward. We have a lot of experience and expertise across first-person shooters and RPG games that we would like to and we will use and take advantage for the releases coming in the next years. Our IPs are popular. Looking into the sales of those games, they are popular IPs. Lords of the Fallen has more than 10 million players, partially through the sales of original game, partially through the game being available for different subscription models on consoles, PlayStation, and Xbox. We have very experienced global team, and outside of the development that I already said, we have very experienced global team that runs marketing, that runs sales, that runs business development, obviously that runs finance and runs business, and that is also our key advantage and our business pillar that we will be growing the company further. And as said previously, we have a very strong high margin business. When we had games that do well, like it was last year, and this is what we will do our best to happen in the future and expand the business, then our margins are very, very healthy and very strong. Going to 2021 highlights, again, this is a strong financial performance, award-winning commercially successful launches, and what we announced in the 4th quarter, adding the 3rd IP that is developed by experienced external team, led by our internal team. We selected Battlefields from various other developers that we have been in contact. We thought Battlefields was the best partner to go on. Obviously, key people at Battlefields used to work previously with some of our senior guys on the development, so it's a new relation to CI Games, but from the standpoint of people, it's not really a new relation. People used to work together, so there is absolutely a track record and understanding of each other. And on one side, I cannot say anything. It's absolutely too early to say anything about Project Survive, but I can only assure you that so far so good. We're really happy from the progress that we have achieved so far on that IP. Continued development of existing IPs. Obviously, Lords of the Fallen 2 is our largest project that we are currently involved, and it's probably the largest project we ever had as a company. It's a full price game that we will start the marketing campaign in the 3rd quarter of this year, 3rd quarter of 2022. And this game, we are looking forward to release in the next year, in 2023. I can say production is really on track, and still a lot of work, including a lot of polish, but we're very confident about that game being a strong, very important milestone for the growth of CA games in the near future. Multiplayer component is important to us. However, some of our games are primarily single-player games, and they may be, I'm not saying all, but some of them may be primarily single-player games. Nonetheless, we will be looking to add the multiplayer functionality, multiplayer experience, to add additional layer and increase the interest and accessibility to those games going forward. Some of the projects that we currently have in development, the multiplayer will be more important aspect than some others. But going back to what we're stating here, all our key projects will be as well multiplayer, will as well have the multiplayer component. And organization further strengthened and internationalized. Out of 157 people we had across our teams for the end of 2021, 90 people were working across Europe, some in the US, and 67 out of Poland. Currently, the management team, the executive team, is mostly consisting of people from different locations. And I think it's been already for some time. Some of the guys, we've been working for 2 years on that setting or more, and it's been very successful. At the same time, we can clearly say that there is no dominant culture, and it's really diversified and very international, the way we are leading our business and the way we will be leading our business in the future. This is currently our key management team. I would like to again introduce David Broderick, who recently joined the company as the CFO. David, please, you go ahead on the financial part.
Thank you, Marek, and for the introduction there. Obviously, it's a pleasure to present the numbers as they are today. I suppose we'll start with the Q4 numbers as they are. You know, net revenue, EBITDA, net profit, all performing strongly and translating into, you know, strong EBITDA and net profit margins, and a strong closing cash position at the end of the year. This all went to kind of drive the full year numbers. Obviously, where we saw, you know, one of the best years we've had for a long time, with the revenue up 129% from 46 million to 105, EBITDA up from 27.8 to 60.4, and the net profit up from 7.1 to 38.3. Again, all of this translating and transferring into strong EBITDA and net profit margins for the year, and a strong cash position of 37.8, up from 28.2 in the previous year. We'll dive into the P&L and the balance sheet to give a bit more color in terms of the factors behind this. If we take the income statement here, obviously in June 2021, the company released Sniper Ghost Warrior Contracts 2. This obviously had a significant impact on the group's financial performance. This game accounted for 61% of the consolidated revenues, while Sniper Ghost Warrior Contracts, which was released in late November 19, continued to have good sales and made up 16% of the 2021 sales. As Marek alluded to, we also had newly published games from United Label, Elder Souls, Tales of Iron, and combined they contributed to 11% of the total overall revenue. We still see continued strong growth in terms of digital sales, 69% this year compared to 75% last year. That's probably more a function of the fact physical sales are higher when we have more new releases. But overall, we expect to see strong growth in the digital sales channel as the business continues to grow and develop over the coming years. The production costs consisted mainly of amortization of development work on the Sniper Ghost Warrior Contracts and Contracts 2 games. And then the increase in sales margin from 42% to 62.5% is mainly attributable to new releases. And again, those first few months generally being the most positive and profitable periods of those, and obviously the new releases that we made contributing massively to that. Obviously, with the increased sales, we had an increase in selling activities. Our selling costs increased from 16.3 million to 5.8. Again, this is more activity, more spend on games being released, and also growth in our international marketing and sales department. G&A costs also increased from 7.7 million from 5.5. This was a combination of obviously increased activity, driving increased headcount, and some other related costs due to the increase in activity of the business. Operating profit, again, strong performance, up to 40.3 million at 38.2%. And again, new games being a principal driver behind that. So, overall, very strong performance on the P&L, that all translating to much stronger margins and a strong EPS finish for the end of the year. If we have a look at the balance sheet, again, strong balance sheet. As we look at it here, basically total assets increased by 38%, which was attributable to the investments in games and working capital. Intangible assets up to 81 million. Most of this was again related to the new franchises under development. The bank or the group continues to be debt free currently, and obviously we finished the year with a strong cash balance at 37.8 million to take into the coming year. Obviously, the financial performance, what we put up here is the kind of consensus. This is the kind of market's expectation. Obviously, we expect we've had a good performance this year with the new releases. We expect the coming financial year to be a period of consolidation, consolidating on our progress, and continuing to invest as we focus on the evolution of the business and the new IP that we're developing. As you can see in the numbers, this reflects 2022, which we expect to be a quieter year in terms of major new gaming title releases. But we continue to remain focused on delivering sustainable growth from probably what is one of our strongest portfolio of games and content to date that we've had, and seeing those starting to deliver for the business in 2023 and beyond. In terms of the roadmap, again, I think for us, we see long-term demand for video games. We don't see that changing. We see strong technology trends, obviously with the new consoles. We see expanded player bases in terms of the genres and the appetite for those. And through that, we see new opportunities arising from, continued moves to digital distribution, the launch of the consoles and the new launch of games as a service. So all of those we see as opportunities for us as we continue to grow the business. As we bring, obviously, the new titles, the new installments of Lords, Snipers, and also with United Label, where we will continue to look and find new projects which we will bring to market. We obviously have the Survival, the new piece of IP, which is in development. And obviously, buoyed by this, we're continuing to look at strategic options for the business, one of those being a dual listing on the London Stock Exchange. So, for our outlook from now, based off the year and the strong foundation that we have, is a positive one. And we're excited by the prospect that I think sits ahead for us. I'll hand back to Marek for you to kind of pick up from this point. We put a number of schedules into the back of the presentation as appendices. This will give you some further color and detail on the business for you to review. And I'll pass back to Marek.
Thank you, David. So we will move to questions. We will try to split the answers between David and me. We start, what are your plans for the future? That's the question. I think we cannot say much more than what we are saying in our reports and what we are saying in the presentation. Definitely, we're looking into Lords of the Fallen 2 being launched next year as a very strong business milestone, a performance milestone for CI Games. We're looking to launch more projects, meaning Next Sniper, Ghost Warrior, Project Survive, also in the next years. There is a question about whether this will be in 2023. We do not want to state exact dates yet for other projects. Our focus is Lords of the Fallen 2, but I can assure everyone that those other projects, obviously, first of all, are very important to us. They are in the full production, and we do not see any major issues or anything different than what we saw several months ago when we were having a Q3 presentation after our results. Do you have plans to expand your team, and when? It's a good question. We consistently expanding our teams. There is a very large increase in terms of the amount of people that work for us as a group from different locations from the end of 2020 to the end of 2021. We consistently hiring to multiple studios, multiple roles. I guess, and that based on our current plans and 2022 being more a consolidation year for us on the current projects we're running, that the increase in terms of team size within 2021 will not be as high as it was in 2021. So in 2022, the increase in team size will not be as high as in 2021, but we still absolutely be increasing our teams. What benchmarks can Project Survival be compared to, and when will it be released? So we do not state at this moment anything specific in terms of the release date, but I hope we will be potentially able to give a positive surprise in terms of the launch of that game, and we will only say when we were really very confident about exact release date. And in terms of the benchmarks, so there are different survival games out there that could be relevant benchmarks to Project Survive. However, it's too early in the communication strategy for that project to say anything more about that. So I'm sorry, but we cannot share that any further at this moment. Questions. David, do you expect specific returns on individual game investments? Do you have set break-even points?
Obviously, we go into detailed budgets for each of the games, and that's one of our starting points, and we track that through the progress of the development of the game. There's a lot of analysis done in terms of the target markets and aspects of where we believe the price points and the pitch points are for those games. So there's a lot of work. Obviously, we don't share that out externally on a granular game by game basis, but in terms of our expectation for the overall group and the performance and how we allocate assets in terms of money and people, we do a lot of detailed analysis behind each game, and that determines the marketing spend. It determines the labor, the manpower, and the cost of that we attribute to that game. And the quality that we strive for in the respective titles also has a big bearing on the price point in terms of where we believe those games can be sold and to what market. So, yes, internally we run our numbers and our budgets and our forecasts on quite a granular basis, but it's not something that we break out externally on a detailed game by game level.
There's another one, David, to you. How would you describe the company current financial situation, and what are your financial goals for the coming year?
I think that it's had a very strong finish to the end of 2021. Strong margin delivery, progressive returns over the last few years. There's a lot of strong IP and development over the course of this year, and that continues to go on. I think, like I said, this year we expect to be somewhat quieter, but it is a year of consolidation. It is a year that is building on progress. It is a year where we continue to invest in both existing and new titles. and all with the view that we will be delivering sustainable growth from a strong portfolio, a diverse portfolio of content that should be starting to come to the market from 2023 and beyond. So I think this is really, that's the objective kind of going forward.
Thank you. Another question: are you going to sell any IP to other studios? So let me answer to that. We do not plan to sell any IP to other studios, and our cash situation, our financial situation is strong. So we absolutely will be looking, if anything, to add more IPs to our group in the next years rather than selling them. If that question is related to whether we will potentially looking to expand our IPs or sell them in terms of licensing them for other formats outside of video games, then yes, we are considering that, and that may happen in the future, that we will be looking into licensing our IPs outside of the format of video games. I think David, that's a question to you. What can we expect from strategic options review? I think that's related also to dual listing. That there was another question around that.
Yeah, again, the company announced around the same time as I joined, we've appointed Berenberg to explore with us the option of a dual listing, most likely on the London Stock Exchange. That's a course that we continue to explore. Again, it looks like a location that makes a logical fit for the CI game story in terms of investors and broadening the base.
Okay. Question: how do you see the situation? How do you see the situation? Translation from Polish: the situation of CI games versus other Polish development studios, and how are the last years for the company? I think that we obviously our roots are coming from Poland, but we are more international than Polish at this moment, and we do not try to really benchmark ourselves to other Polish successful, non-successful developers, publishers. We're trying to benchmark us and compare us to developers and publishers globally, into peer group of video gaming companies that are listed on AIM or listed in Stockholm, and we try to compare us to them. And obviously there are different layers of comparisons. Could be a financial layer, valuation layer. That's one thing. But obviously what I am referring to is comparing our business, comparing our performance, comparing our future, potential future, and what ingredients we have, what components we have versus what they have, and how we can use that to be as successful as we can. And I think on that level, in terms of comparing us to other video gaming companies, please say to limit that from Europe, I think we are very competitive. I think we are very competitive in that European field of video game and developers and publishers. And we keep going in strengthening our competitive edge on those fronts. What implications does the recent success of Elden Rings have for Lords of the Fallen 2? Let me have that answer. So Elden Ring was released around 1 month ago by Bandai Namco. The game was developed by From Software, developer of Dark Souls games and Bloodborne. Elden Ring became very successful. They recently announced they sold 12 million copies in the first 3 weeks. So that's absolutely by far the most successful action RPG Soulsborne combat-driven game till date. And this is absolutely great news to us, because that means that the market is substantially larger than you could consider before the launch of Elden Ring. I mean, Elden Ring numbers right now are really a mainstream game numbers. Those are like large numbers. So they sold 12 million. You can only extrapolate how many units they sell by the end of the year, within the first year, etc. So that's a great news to us. But obviously, it also means that we have to look into making Lords of the Fallen 2 being a very competitive product on the marketplace, and take also further considerations what that means and what other aspects made that game successful, and how we can leverage that into Lords of the Fallen 2 game itself, and launch and marketing. And I can only say that we are very analytically driven organization, and absolutely we will be working and having several studies and surveys on to find out more about that. Another question to you, David. What more can you say about the timing of dual listing?
Again, it's we've initiated the process where we're working through that. I think as and when we have an update, we will provide that. But I think it will be a relatively this calendar year, and relatively short number of months just to execute and conclude.
The question here, are there any loans to be paid? And if there are any loans, meaning bank loans, I assume, what are the amounts of those bank loans that the company has to pay back?
No, we're as of 31st of December, we were debt free. There's no financing or no debt in the business.
Thank you. That's another question, I think, David, to you. What kind of relationships do you have with foreign investors?
Obviously, a number of years I've worked in capital markets. 8 years with Ryanair, obviously in a different sector, but exposure to large investment funds on a global basis. And similarly with Keywords, where we grew the investor base and the analyst coverage quite extensively during my time there. So again, that's probably the most relevant experience. So knowing that background from North American to European to UK investors who have a strong interest in the video game sector.
Okay. Question: are there any DLCs planned for existing titles? So I think it's interesting topic on DLC. We demonstrated that with Sniper Ghost War Contracts 2, we improved that percentage of revenue we were able to generate from additional content, including obviously DLC for our games versus previous installments. So DLCs are absolutely important to us, part of the industry, and we expect the DLC component becoming stronger and stronger in our revenue streams. We plan DLCs to some of our titles, existing titles, but again, like before we announce them publicly, we cannot really say more. And but I can assure everyone that going forward, we are very strategic in terms of thinking on the whole DLC strategy at the launch and post-launch for all our key projects. the question here, whether or not the company CI Games is planning to acquire smaller studios, and what do you think about the consolidation in the gaming industry? So we will be obviously looking. We are always open in terms of looking potentially to acquire smaller studios. That's not currently our core strategy. It may change in the future, but it's not that we are not absolutely thinking about it. This can be something in the future that will be adding to our business, our teams. But again, this is not something that we are focused at this moment. And in terms of the consolidation of the entire industry, I think maybe can you take it, please, and just give your point of view on the consolidation?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's an accepted piece that it's going to become more and more prominent, I think, over time. Previously I heard people kind of relate to the video game industry a bit like pharma, in terms of where you had some major players who have all the big pieces of IP, and then you have biotech below, and they kind of break out and have hits, and sometimes they get acquired or they grow in their own right. So I think structurally, it's probably something that's here to stay. I think, but there's space for everybody. I think there's space for the big established players, and there's those place for those who are bringing out unique and specific and specialized IP as well.
Yeah, I think that the only thing that I would like to add here is that from the investor standpoint, I think it's also important to it's important fact that those acquisitions are happening at the very high multiples, and companies being acquired with a significant premium to what they were being trading at, even that they were being already trading at the high multiples. That I think is a great indication of strength of the industry, and that there is absolutely a value perception from also a strategic bigger investors, industry investors in that sector. What is the overall production and marketing budget for Lords of the Fallen 2? We cannot provide. We do not basically provide the information on budgets during the production. We may provide the information after the game is launched, if we decide to do it. I think it's fair to say at this moment that Lords of the Fallen 2, it will be a significantly bigger game than Lords of the Fallen 1, and the budget is also significantly larger than Lords of the Fallen 1, but we cannot provide any further indication on the budget. And the question that was related to that project, will the premiere of Lords of the Fallen 2 be multi-platform immediately? The answer is yes. This game will be immediately simultaneously launched on both a new generation of consoles and PC. And then another question related to Lords of the Fallen 2. Why don't you release Lords of the Fallen 2 at the end of the year before Christmas? We will release Lords of the Fallen 2 when we will be confident that the game is at the stage and is ready to be released. It's a very important project to us. We do not think we will be able to release that game considering that still this year. The quality is absolutely priority for us on that and other projects. Another question related to Lords of the Fallen. How are the works around Lords of the Fallen going? I think we can say it's all very good. We have a very strong team, very experienced team. We're very happy from the results, from the outcomes. It's doing very well. I think last one question. please tell us what are the plans in order to develop studio in the UK. Let me answer that just to clarify. We are looking into hiring talents across Europe, wherever those talents are. And everyone working currently for us, especially outside of Poland, are working remotely. And this is not something that we consider to change. And because of that, we have been very successful in hiring great people, great experience, talented developers. And currently we have developers also working out of the UK. Probably we'll be expanding that as well. But when we are hiring on any given new position, first of all, we are looking for the best developer, its development, who can take that job, regardless of where he's located. So the location is second. The talent is first for us, and it's very important in our strategy. So I would like to thank you, thank everyone for joining us today on our annual 2021 investor conference. Very pleased with the results, and look forward to see you on the next investor call, at the occasion of first quarter results. Thank you very much.
Yeah.